Django, have you never loved again? Love will live on, life must go on, for you cannot spend your life regretting.
Spaghetti Western. Nope. I don't need to dress up like or talk like the man with no name to prove that I absolutely love spaghetti westerns. I ain't talking about westerns. Sure, American Golden Age films like 3:10 to Yuma and True Grit were badass, and John Wayne more than deserves his due, but I'm talking spaghetti westerns. Those high-octane, action-packed gunslinger flicks that introduced us to the new breed of western hero, like Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, and Franco Nero. I don't want to mention that his last name even actually rhymes with hero, but come on, you were totally thinking that too. When I say spaghetti western, I'm sure the first thing that pops into most of your heads is Sergio Leone and his series of Man with No Name films that starred Clint Eastwood, which I'll admit I started out with as well. I can't count how many times I've seen Good, Bad, and the Ugly. The final standoff still captivates me to this day. The intense stares of Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef combined with the beautiful score of Ennio Morricone still outright amazes me. Though I think many people neglect the 1966 Sergio Corbucci film about a lone coffin-dragging gunslinger caught between the KKK and a band of Mexican bandits. The film is Django, and it's a highly influential spaghetti western that easily co-founded the genre with Sergio Leone's Man with No Name films. Why was Django such a hit? Because the spaghetti western genre exploded with knockoffs and supposed sequels. Return of Django, Django Kills, Viva Django, Django Prepare a Coffin, Django the Bastard, Django Unchained. And there eventually actually was an official sequel to Django in 1987, starring Franco Nero and written by Sergio Corbucci. And in 2007, there was a Japanese reimagining of the original called Sukiyaki Western Django. But screw talking about those, they're too official. One of my personal favorite films in the unofficial Django series canon is the 1976 spaghetti western film KEOMA, which has two alternate titles in the US, going by Django Rides Again and Django's Great Return. What the ever-loving fuck does KEOMA have to do with Django? It stars Franco Nero. That's about it. KEOMA is a half-breed that returns home from the Civil War only to find everything either ravaged or taken over by corruption. The town he grew up in has been taken over by a man named Codwell, who has enlisted former soldiers, including KEOMA's 3 white brothers, to do his dirty work. To make matters worse, the town is being ravaged by the plague, and thanks to Codwell's ridiculously steep tax on everything including medicine and even fresh water, the infected are rounded up and sent to die in an abandoned mine. KEOMA's desire to right wrongs is triggered when he stumbles on some of Codwell's men hauling a wagon full of plague victims, some of which aren't even sick but rounded up just the same simply through relation, which is the fate of a pregnant woman in perfect health that's sentenced to death because her husband had become infected. Every good western needs a badass introduction to its gunslinger hero, and I think KEOMA more than succeeds at this.
Get off your horse. I said get off your horse.
Though as much of a hard motherfucker as KEOMA is, does his theme song measure up to the likes of Django? Well...
Don't kill my
be honest, it's a goldmine of unintentional hilarity. You know how in Black Dynamite there are scenes where the music in the background is describing exactly what's happening?
You promised your mama on her deathbed that you would look after Jimmy. Now he's dead.
I can't believe my little brother just passed away.
Pretty damn funny, but it's a lot fucking funnier in KEOMA because it's played dead straight.
Don't you know they're gonna kill her now? Maybe they've already done it. So
Yup, expository soundtrack. It sort of comes and goes. They couldn't have picked a sillier voice if they tried, though. I mean, this honestly rivals the hilarity of the theme to your Hunter from the Future. It's brilliant. And the fun doesn't stop there. A male co-vocalist makes his entrance about an hour mark into the film. If you thought the chick sounded silly, oh man, the dude vocals make her sound legit. If your heart ever desired to hear what Arnold Schwarzenegger would sound like in a musical, your wish has just been granted.
Lenny!
There's my father, then my brothers, and me.
And me.
Tell me now, Father, why they hate me so.
My father's sword!
Yeah, I'm here in front of these men.
Alright, that's enough. Though, before we continue, seeing as this is all about the Django exploitation, I'm curious to see what the original Django theme would look like with KEOMA.
Django, have you never loved again? Love will live on.
Nice. So KEOMA takes it upon himself to save the town. His heart aches from it all being turned upside down by Codwell and his obscene level of bullshit. Aside from Codwell himself, KEOMA must face his brothers, who since childhood have resented him because he's half Indian. I truly think this adds gravity to KEOMA as a character. You really feel for the guy. His only friends in the world are his father and a freed slave named George, who used to be a total big-ass motherfucker, but stopped caring when things got so shit, so he turned to booze.
Now the war is over. Now you've got your freedom.
I found out what it was worth. That's why I drink.
One of my personal favorite moments is when KEOMA is officially fed up with George's self-pity and reminds him of how awesome he was and still is.
What's happened to you, George? I used to admire you so much. I've never forgotten the lessons you taught me. You were my idol. You a black man and me half Indian. I learned from you that the color of a man's skin doesn't make any difference. In those days, you were never afraid of anything. From a wild cat to a grizzly bear.
KEOMA's brothers are noteworthy dickbags, truly hateable villains. It isn't enough that they work for Codwell against their own blood, but when Codwell boots them out of the gang for failing to stop KEOMA, they become even more scummy. They let KEOMA, their father, and George face off against Codwell on their own in a bloody showdown that KEOMA barely even survives. They show up to pick Codwell's bones clean just so they can blame KEOMA for the town's troubles and take all the credit for everything and everybody that he fought for. It seems like the movie might actually end on a major down note. KEOMA is left hanging in the town square to die while his brothers party it up in the saloon. But Lisa, the pregnant woman that he saved earlier, shows up back in town against KEOMA's wishes to return the favor, setting the stage for a brutal final battle between four brothers as a new life is brought into the world. I should probably warn you, what I'm about to say is going to sound really fucking pretentious. KEOMA ends on a strange, somewhat disturbing, and rather excellent note. While KEOMA is gunning down his brothers, Lisa is giving birth to her child. With these two things happening at the same time, they become intertwined. Lisa's birthing screams are played over KEOMA slaughtering his brothers. The suffering of new life with the suffering of death. It's really quite powerful. I should be wearing Dahmer specs, shouldn't I? I like KEOMA a lot. I saw it about 2 years ago on a little box set called Spaghetti Western 44 Movie Collection, which, I'll be honest, I bought because I saw this name on the cover.
Raul Morales is the strongest.
What can I say? I'm a sad little fanboy for George Eastman. So imagine my delight when I recognized that KEOMA was written in part by Mr. Eastman himself. Luigi Montefiore is his real name. The talented son of a bitch came up with the story and co-wrote KEOMA with Enzo Castelletti, who directed the film. Enzo Castelletti is an iconic exploitation director and has made classics in the genre like Bronx Warriors and the original Inglourious Bastards. If you think about it, Tarantino has remade 2 Castelletti films now. KEOMA isn't really a Django film, and neither is Django Unchained. It's really more of a tribute to the sequel exploitations. Maybe that sounds like a stretch, but I don't really think it is. Django Unchained has a hell of a lot more similarities to KEOMA than it does the original Django, the biggest being that the hero is a minority of the period. He's of a race that was looked down upon.
Now you had to pay for the water, and now you gotta pay for the medicines.
Hey! I'll pay this time.
How much you willing to pay?
4 cents.
4 cents is mighty little.
The price of 4 bullets. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Franco Nero has been a consistently working actor since the 60s. He's literally almost been in a movie every year since 1962. He's been in everything from Die Hard 2 to Cars 2, and in 1981 he starred in one of the films that really helped put the Cannon Group on the map, Enter the Ninja, which is widely considered to be one of the first films ever to truly popularize ninjutsu. He even made a cameo in Django Unchained, proving that he still has the same steely-eyed, badass presence. And to me, the original 1966 Django stands the test of time and is still one of my all-time favorite westerns ever made. Did I enjoy Django Unchained? I certainly did, but it was missing just one simple component. Franco Nero. Big ass motherfucker since 1966.